The soft hum of expensive conversation filled the air, blending with the faint music of a live piano in the corner of the restaurant. Crystal chandeliers scattered light like diamonds, making everything look perfect. Too perfect, like a dream built on lies. Emily Davenport sat across from her father, her posture straight, her smile polite, every move rehearsed from years of high society training. She hated these dinners, the endless talk about mergers, stocks, and charity events that were anything but charitable. Her father's booming laughter filled the table as he charmed investors, his golden cufflinks glinting under the light. Emily nodded along, pretending to listen, her mind elsewhere, drifting into a fog of numbness she'd learned to live with. Then, a small, trembling voice cut through the noise. "Would you like still or sparkling water, sir?" Emily turned, her gaze falling on the waitress standing beside them. She couldn't have been more than 20. Her dark hair was tied back too tightly, her eyes hollow from exhaustion, her smile fragile. A smile that looked forced, as if stitched onto her face to survive another day. When she reached forward to place the glasses on the table, her sleeve slipped just enough to reveal something that made Emily's breath catch. A dark bruise, small but unmistakably human in shape, curling around the girl's wrist like a cruel secret. Their eyes met. For a second, everything else, the clinking silverware, the laughter, the chatter, disappeared. The waitress froze, realizing she'd been seen, and quickly tugged her sleeve down. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, backing away, her voice trembling. Emily said nothing, but her chest tightened with an ache she hadn't felt in years, the ache of remembering. She knew that look, the quiet fear that hides behind obedience, the kind that comes from someone who's been hurt and told to smile anyway. Throughout the evening, Emily found herself watching the girl whenever she passed by. The waitress kept her head low, moving quickly between tables, flinching slightly every time a male customer raised his voice or reached out a hand. Emily noticed the way the manager scolded her harshly near the bar, the way she muttered, "Yes, sir," with a voice that sounded cracked. Emily's father was too busy boasting about profits to notice, but Emily couldn't look away. Her fork lay untouched beside her plate. Memories flashed uninvited. Her mother crying in silence while her father's anger filled the house, the bruises hidden under designer sleeves, the endless pressure to stay perfect, to never speak. She had escaped that world years ago, but the shadows still followed her. And now, sitting here among the rich and blind, she saw those same shadows in the eyes of a stranger. When dinner ended, Emily didn't join in the laughter or the goodbyes. As her father rose to shake hands with his business partners, she looked toward the kitchen one last time. The waitress was there, stacking plates with shaking hands, her sleeve riding up again just slightly, enough for Emily to see that the bruise wasn't alone. There were more. Her throat tightened. Something inside her whispered, "Don't walk away." For the first time in years, Emily didn't. The night air outside the restaurant was cool and heavy with the scent of salt from the nearby ocean. The laughter and music faded behind Emily as she stepped out, but she didn't call her driver. Instead, she stood near the alley watching faint light spill from the kitchen door. She waited, heart restless, mind clouded with worries, until she saw the waitress emerge, her shoulders hunched, her thin coat barely shielding her from the cold. The girl moved quickly like someone trying not to be seen. She lit a cigarette with shaking hands, the flame trembling before it caught. Emily hesitated. Part of her wanted to leave, to tell herself it wasn't her problem. But something deeper, older, louder kept her feet planted. She walked closer, her heels clicking softly against the pavement. "Hey," she called gently. The girl spun around, eyes wide with fear. "I'm sorry," Emily said quickly, raising her hands a little. "I didn't mean to scare you." The waitress stared at her, confused and guarded. The harsh streetlight made her bruises look even darker now. Faint purple lines across her wrist, a small mark near her neck she hadn't managed to hide. She turned her face away, taking a shaky drag from her cigarette. "What do you want?" she muttered. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay," Emily said quietly. The girl laughed bitterly. "No one ever is." "Not really." Her voice cracked, a sound that hit Emily like glass breaking. "Please, just go back inside. You don't need to get involved." Emily stepped closer, her tone soft but firm. "Someone's hurting you, aren't they?" The waitress froze. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For a long moment, she just stood there, trembling. Then finally she whispered, "My boyfriend. He waits for me every night after work. He checks my phone. He says if I ever try to leave, he'll find me." Emily felt the blood drain from her face. "Have you told anyone?" "The police?" The girl shook her head quickly. "They won't help. He knows people. I tried once, and it only made things worse. Please, I don't want trouble." Her cigarette slipped from her fingers, falling to the wet ground. She stepped on it nervously. Emily's heart pounded. She remembered what it felt like to live under fear, to measure every word, every glance, to believe escape was impossible. She couldn't stand there and do nothing. "Listen to me," she said softly, pulling a small card from her coat pocket. "This is my driver's number. He works for me, not my father. If you ever need to leave, tonight, tomorrow, whenever, call him. He'll take you somewhere safe. No questions. No one will know." The girl stared at the card as if it were a foreign object. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice trembling. "You don't even know me?" Emily's eyes softened, but there was pain behind them. "Because someone once knew I was in danger, and they did nothing." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind rustled through the alley, carrying the faint sound of the ocean. The waitress's eyes filled with tears she didn't want to show. She nodded slightly and tucked the card into her pocket, whispering, "Thank you." Emily wanted to say more, to promise her safety, but she knew she couldn't make that kind of promise. Not yet. She simply smiled, a small, fragile smile of understanding, and turned to leave. As she walked back toward the street, she glanced over her shoulder one last time. The girl was still standing there staring down at the card, her expression caught between fear and hope. It was a look Emily would never forget. Days turned into a blur of restless silence. Emily couldn't stop thinking about the girl. Her bruised wrist, her trembling voice, the fear in her eyes. Every time her phone buzzed, she hoped it was her. But nothing came. She tried to bury herself in work, in charity meetings, in her father's endless demands for appearances. Yet the thought gnawed at her, growing heavier with each sleepless night. She would look out from her penthouse window, over the glittering skyline, wondering if the girl was still alive, if she had been found out, if she'd ever get the chance to escape. Then, one stormy night, when the sky outside roared with thunder and the city lights blurred under sheets of rain, her phone finally lit up. One message. Just 2 words. "I'm ready." Her heart stopped. For a moment she stared at the screen, afraid to breathe. Then instinct took over. She called her driver, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "Go to the restaurant," she ordered. "She'll be waiting. Take her to the safe house, the one by the coast. Don't let anyone follow you." Hours passed like years. The storm battered the windows, lightning flashing across the sky. Emily sat by the fireplace, unable to move, replaying every possible scenario in her mind. What if he found her first? What if it was a trap? What if she was too late? Her mind refused to rest. Then, near midnight, her phone rang again. It was her driver. "She's safe, Miss Davenport. She's with us now." Emily closed her eyes, exhaling a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Relief washed over her like a wave, but beneath it lingered something darker. Anger. No one should live like that. No one should suffer in silence. But the next morning, her relief turned into shock. The news flashed across every channel. Man arrested after armed break-in at Harborview Restaurant. Emily froze as the anchor spoke. The man had entered the restaurant screaming his girlfriend's name, demanding to know where she was. He'd broken dishes, thrown chairs until the police arrived. An anonymous caller had tipped them off just minutes before he could hurt anyone. The image of his face on the screen, pale, furious, broken, made Emily's stomach twist. She sank into her chair, covering her mouth with her hand. The anonymous call, it had been her driver, which meant she had saved her. Outside, rain continued to fall, streaking the window like silver threads. Emily stood there quietly, staring at the storm. Somewhere out there, That young woman was free, beginning a new life, breathing without fear. Emily imagined her stepping onto a train, her bruises fading, her hands finally steady. And for the first time in years, Emily felt something stir inside her, something she thought she'd lost long ago. It wasn't pride. It wasn't relief. It was redemption. The kind that doesn't erase the past, but transforms it. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, whispering to the night, "You're safe now?" The rain beat harder, but in that sound, Emily heard something she hadn't in a long time: peace.